The Art of Listening podcast. So when I was thinking earlier today about like this in-person podcast, which is the first because the ones I have recorded have been like on Zoom or online.
Yeah.
I was like, how do I want to introduce the guest? Like, do I let them introduce themselves? Do I record like an introduction after?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. Have you ever used like these dating apps?
Nope.
No?
I am very absent from the social media world. I got Facebook, I got LinkedIn, and that's it. I don't have anything else.
Well, I was thinking about the dating apps because you gotta describe yourself,
Mhm.
right? But I personally don't think that's like an honest description because people who describe themselves in the dating apps, like they are already like having it in mind, like like my target is to get a partner.
Yeah.
So I think they tend to like over exaggerate some of the things, similar to people who light on their resumes.
I mean, it's gonna, like the intent is different, right? If here it's a true introduction, it's just, hey, welcome the audience. This is the guy, the gal, the person you're kind of interviewing with versus like, hey, by the way, I'm selling myself in hope to get some customer that's gonna swipe right.
Exactly,
Right.
it's like selling yourself.
Yeah, what you want, swipe right.
So, but based on that, like, how do you think would be a good approach to describe like someone, like yourself? Like would you use tags? Like, how would you describe it? What would be the best approach to communicate who you are to people?
I mean, that's an interesting thing, right? I don't think there's ever wrong, especially in the podcast scenario, just to say, hey, almost like an interview. Tell me a little bit about
Yeah.
yourself. Depends on the day, depends on the time. People might be comfortable, uncomfortable talking about different things about themselves, right? Maybe they had a pretty tragic experience recently that there will be part of the introduction they want to blur out. And so like a scripted thing, right? Just because it's the time of the day or whatever, or they're not a morning person, or for some reason you're doing a podcast at 9 a.m.,
Yeah.
right? They might be blurring out. I think that's more natural, and also like kind of probably will fit into kind of like the vibe you're trying to give during the conversation
Mhm.
later on, in the
that's right.
podcast.
Yeah. So based on that,
Right?
how would you introduce yourself, like to like a stranger?
Yeah.
Like what has been like the most awkward situation where you have to like introduce yourself?
Probably thanks to some of my friends in college, they try to set me up with somebody, right? He's like, hey, KB, go talk to that girl. Bye. Like, okay, right? She doesn't know me. I don't know her. Like, hey, my name is KB. What's your name? Right? It's kind of confident. The awkward, sometimes embracing the awkward, I feel like it's fun,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes, like, almost purposely making it awkward, it's actually a fantastic icebreaker. Right, that general emotion, like showing people, I'm a little awkward about this,
Yeah.
but they felt the same way. That's actually working pretty well. So I don't know. I introduced myself wise. I usually pretty open. I like strangers. I like making friends. I like talk to strangers. So usually as, hey, my name is KP. What about you?
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's already a conversation started.
That's a really important thing you said, like embracing being awkward.
Yeah.
I think that's a great takeaway from different scenarios in my life. I had a very interesting group of friends in college,
Mm-hmm.
and we loved bullying like each other,
Yeah.
especially with girls.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of the wave, the Mexican wave in football or
Yeah.
soccer,
Mm-hmm.
where everybody goes like woo, and like it's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
like a wave around the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were younger and we used to see like one of our friends like talking to a girl, we would sit behind the girl like far away, right? And we
Mhm.
would start like making
Oh.
the wave and like cheering for our friend.
Nice.
Just trying to make the moment like more awkward.
Yeah, yeah.
And in some cases, like I was victim of that too, like
Mhm.
like I would be talking to a lady and then my friends would start like bullying me. and in some cases I couldn't handle it, and I
Mhm.
just had to end the conversation.
Yeah.
And it was like way later in my life when I started embracing like that awkwardness.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's like a natural thing when you grow up, like you start feeling more comfortable with it.
Oh
Maybe.
yeah. I mean, you find I find it funny. I find a funny thing about being awkward. I guess like somebody being awkward. I know inherently for me, it's something kind of can be cherished. Like
Yeah.
it's a true emotion people are feeling. You can. Hopefully, it doesn't. As long as it doesn't turn straight into fear.
Yeah.
Right. There's a difference. I feel like between being awkward, slightly embarrassed, to just straight up fear. If I introduce myself to somebody and their first reaction is like tense up, ready to run, it's like, okay, now that's actually awkward,
Yeah,
right?
that-
But
that
if it's
fine
just like,
line.
I don't know what to say, I don't know how to
Yeah.
introduce myself, I think that's a pretty real emotion
Mhm.
people will experience, especially today, right? Like I feel like we live in a world, um, a lot of people are more acclimated to texting versus having like an in-person conversation,
Oh yeah.
right? It's a lot more comfortable. Even we just stand side by side, say, "Hey, what's your number?" Real quick, right? We exchange numbers. Like, my name's KP,
Yeah.
right? And then like you text like, "Hey, my name's Kate." Ding. It seems a lot more lively just on the text. But if we talk to each other, like,
Yeah.
hey,
Mhm.
right? It's a weird phenomenon, but I think it's pretty like more frequent than we think these days. Like straight up coming to a person like, "Hey, my name is blah blah blah. What about you?"
Mhm.
It's a very frightened situation. It's like, I haven't swiped right yet. Why are you talking to me?
And I think that has been more remarkable during the pandemic.
Mhm.
I think like a lot of people became like very socially awkward,
Mhm.
including myself. And you know, like texting is, I mean, I love writing,
Mhm.
but I think it has like different impacts, right? Like I think writing, when you want to put a thought and clear your mind,
Mhm.
I think it's really, really helpful when you like sit down and grab like paper, a pen, and you start writing. I think that really lets your emotions go through like your entire self
Mhm.
and do like a more accurate reading of what you're feeling. But texting, when you want to communicate, I don't think is like the most effective way.
Yeah.
It's like reading a book, right? Like you can
Mhm.
read like a lot of words, but every single word that you're reading like is going through your past experiences, your cultural background.
Mhm.
And a lot of people, I don't know if you've been in this situation, but a lot of people start fights over text messages
Oh yeah.
just because in their heads the text or the voice
Mhm.
sounds like very different from what the actual message was.
Mhm.
And that to me is like a very interesting thing. What I tell my friends is like, if you have something important to tell me, call me,
Oh,
don't
yeah.
text me.
100%. 100%. I completely agree with that. I mean, it's kind of like to your book to text example, right? When you're reading a book, you have an internal dialogue. You're designing the emotion, you're designing the tonation, you're designing even the voice, kind of property of a character. Bloody hell, sometimes even you read a name that you don't recognize, you give them the pronunciation of their name. I think the most prominent example almost everybody experience is the Hermione in Harry Potter. I'm not gonna lie that the first time I read that name I was like, okay, Hermione, right? It sounds weird, but whatever, it's a character. And then I first saw the movie coming out, Hermione. I was like, oh bloody hell, what? Right? That's a realization. That, oh, okay, that's actually her name. Interesting.
Yeah. That movie and that translation actually made me laugh a lot when I was younger because, like I didn't speak English a long time ago, and like in Mexico and a lot of countries in Latin America, we get the movies translated in Spanish.
Like dubbed over.
Yeah,
Nice.
and different countries have like their own translation team, and it's an art. Like people study for that, and I really respect. I took a couple of classes about translating movies and this kind of things. And it's complex. It's not that easy because you need to adapt the context to the local context.
Oh yeah.
And people from Spain, they love. I mean, Spanish, and they Spanish come from Spain, and they translate English words how they literally would sound in Spanish. So, and when I was watching the Harry Potter movie in Spanish from Latin America, the name Hermione once translated like that, Hermione.
Yeah.
But in Spain, because they translate the literal word, it was Hermione. And when I watched the movie the first time, I was like, what is what they are saying? Like, hey.
Right.
But it's really interesting, like all the language stuff.
Oh yeah.
So like my understanding is correct. Like you were born in Vietnam?
Taiwan actually.
Taiwan.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Taiwan until almost 16. And then after I've taken the Taiwanese national the exam after graduating middle school, my parents decided to send me to the U.S. to finish high school and then college.
Oh.
And so yeah, I spent just a little bit under half of my life in Taiwan. But I was born and raised there up until 16.
And how many languages do you speak?
Right now, I can speak Mandarin pretty comfortably still, thank goodness. That's my mother tongue. And then I hope I can speak English as I'm demonstrating right now. So mainly two. I used to be able to speak like very elementary level German back in the day. I pick it up just because I work in biotech, biopharmaceutical, and I know German has a pretty big dominant, company-wide opportunity over there. So when I was kind of jumping between jobs after college, I just picked out German for about 2 years for kind of shits and giggles. Yeah.
So Mandarin is one of the most complex languages.
It's harder to learn. Yeah. The structure of the language and I think the phenotype nature of the it's a tonal language, right? So you have to have, in my opinion, a little bit more muscular training in your mouth, in your tongue,
right,
in your throat, and everything to kind of control truly what you're saying. Like the most prominent example people always say is ma, 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 ma. To Antren Year, that sounds almost exactly the same.
Yeah.
But I literally just say mang, paralyze, horse, and criticize in 4 different things. Or give you another example, really common phrases, 谢谢 means thank you. When my friend and I went to a Chinese restaurant, pretty traditional one, I ordered in Chinese. And then when the waitress was bringing the dishes to us, he kind of like nudged me and said, hey, how do I say thank you to the waitress? I was like, oh, 谢谢. So, and then he goes, oh, 谢谢. Notice the tone was a little flatter than what I was saying. The waitress straight up replies, oh, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you, though. And then so he got really confused. And then I ended up, I was laughing my ass off at the time because I know exactly what he said. And then he was like, what the heck did I actually say? I was like, you told her to take a break. Yeah, you told her to take a break. 谢谢 means take a break. 谢谢 means thank you. Yeah, so that nature of it, even just speaking, is difficult. Yeah, not let alone the writing part. That's definitely, I think if you're born from more like a Latin or Roman rooted languages, it's a hard system to translate to. Yeah. But I felt the same when I was learning English. I felt the same, like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and I had to put letters together to form a word. That was a very foreign concept for me, right? I'm more used to a character is a character, and how you say it, blah, 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 means different things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all learning progress, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. I was very into languages when I moved here. And I met people from China, from India, from Poland. And that's when it really hit me, like how complex a language can be. Like when I was talking to my friends from Poland, like they have different words to describe, like even like different numbers of items. Like in Spanish, we just have like singular and plural, like for one and multiple. That's it.
Yep.
But it seems that in Polish, like they have more. And also depending on the context, if it's like has like a male or female connotation, the words also change.
Yep.
And like I had a coworker from China, and we used to spend on our free time like a little bit of training for me in Chinese, and it was only like pronouncing her name, which was Xue, and I think like that is like snowball or something. I don't know exactly. No, maybe my pronunciation changed that to like
sorry, but I couldn't put a finger on which name that would be. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's hard. I recognize it's hard. It's something, if I ever try to learn French, try to learn Spanish, the pronunciation in the beginning takes time. And kind of looping back all the way to what we're talking about from the beginning, right? This in person talking
Mhm.
thing versus texting, those are 100% the
Oh
art
yeah.
and like sensation you will lose over text compared to talking to a person. Right, talking to you, you can hear all the accents, all the incorrect pronunciation.
Yeah.
I'm saying that I'm trying to read the same word, right?
Mhm.
But I might not even be able to convey the conversation with you because my pronunciation is just so out of whack. But texting, I got Google right by my side. I
Oh,
can
yeah.
make sure I can text you exactly what I meant, sort of, right? Sort of. It'd be like super formal Spanish, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, the sounds and I mean, it's very different to hear something and
Oh,
then
yeah.
try to reproduce the same sound.
Mm-hmm.
And I think last time we were talking, we were saying that I believe that to be a good singer, you need to have like a trained ear
Mm-hmm.
and be able to reproduce the sound that you're listening.
Mm-hmm.
So you can like give the proper tone and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think something happens with languages. One of my friends, he studies like English literature, and we were having a conversation, and we were like, maybe people who are able to speak multiple languages, maybe they have a developed ear to actually be good singers or good
Mm.
musicians, because I think you need like a good ear to reproduce those sounds. My ear is not at that level, but what I find interesting is that I have a I have a rough time remembering faces,
Mm-hmm.
but how I recognize people is through their voices.
Yeah.
And going back to the awkward moments, I have had so many awkward moments where I think someone is like someone I know on the street, and it turns out that it's a total stranger. Or the opposite way, that the person is like waving at me and like asking me a lot of questions, and I have no idea who that person is until
Yeah.
like I put in my head like, okay, I recognize this voice.
Interesting.
Yeah, and
interesting.
I had a coworker. I think she was a psychologist. I don't know what exactly she was doing, working in the financial sector
Mm.
as a psychologist, but we met there, and she was telling me that not recognizing faces is like an actual condition, and I forgot the name.
Mm-hmm.
But I found that interesting. I didn't know like that was a condition, but yeah, sounds to me are more. If I had the choice to like get rid of one sense or multiple senses,
Yeah.
like hearing will be the last one, because like
Mm.
my world like turns around the sounds.
Smelling, and tasting for me. I love food way too much. I can be blind, I can be deaf. I do not want to lose the sense of smell and taste.
Yeah, because you cook, right?
I cook a lot. Yeah, I cooking is kind of probably my biggest hobby, I would say, out of all the craziness that I do.
Mhm.
Yeah, but cooking is by far the most passionate, hobby I've ever pursued it by a huge mile compared to everything I've ever done.
Well,
Yeah.
before we dig into like the cooking style, you said mentioned like multiple hobbies. Like,
Yeah.
what kind of hobbies?
So kind of why I'm in your house today, kind of how I met you,
Yeah.
right? It's because dancing Zouk.
Mm-hmm.
Before Zouk, awakening my interest in dancing was ballroom dancing, and then before ballroom, kind of this principle of practicing and mastering how you move your body, awareness, and all that jazz was martial art. I did that for almost 17 years before I joined ballroom for another 11 years.
Oh wow!
Right, and then Zouk now is coming up a little bit over a year and 2 months by now.
Mm-hmm.
But cooking, my grandma in Taiwan, when we were kind of living together, she was a phenomenal cook. Right, she was a really, really phenomenal cook. I've always had the luxury of eating the food that she cooked for me every dinner, so I had a pretty big repertoire of things that I have tasted at a very high quality
Mm-hmm.
and very, fine craftsmanship with her skills and experiences. So that because of that, I've always loved to cook. But granted, no, she's way too great, so I'm not gonna invade her kitchen during that. Once I moved to the U.S., that's probably one of the first thing I found myself missing a lot.
Yeah.
Was her cooking, and that sensation every dinner was served at such a masterful level. So kind of that it's probably where I started cooking
Mm-hmm.
as much as possible to myself. A little bit more salt, a little bit less salt. try this pepper versus that
Oh.
that spices, can I really get acclimated to what everything tastes like and how they melt together? And then to me, that's a really, really fun project every time that you turn on the stove, right? Every time, every time you chop something and throw them into the pot or whatever. So that's interesting for me. It's a sense of discovery. And then usually, knock on wood, usually the end result is delicious, right? And then that learning experience to, oh, this plus that equals something way greater than you ever think, right? So that's why I think cooking, I love eating to begin with. Cooking helps me to really refine the eating experience, hence the passion behind it. I love cooking for people. I love cooking things I never touched before. It might not come out well, but usually it's edible. Usually it's edible. I don't like to waste food, so
At least people won't get like food poison. But
that luckily I have not created. I have never caused anybody to have food poison yet. So knock on wood.
I don't think I have caused that. I think I've been close to, but I don't think I have caused like any damage on people.
Yeah.
But you actually you are experimenting on the kitchen, so you are like trying different things.
Oh yeah.
Do you memorize like the recipes, or do you have like a notebook?
I will be honest, I follow the recipe to the T the very first time I try something, right? That is kind of respecting somebody's expertise that they spend time and energy, I hope, testing it themselves and then put it into words. So I do follow the recipe first. And then I have my own sense of, taste, my preferences or whatever. After I made it first, I, from the experience, have a generally decent understand on what each ingredient contributes in a dish. So that's where the modification can start a little bit. After that, a lot of the less complex recipe, I would say I kind of just, I don't really bother looking them up anymore. I just kind of remember. Yeah.
Oh, in my family, we used to have a recipe book, and it was from my grandmother. And then my mom would try, and then she would overwrite like some stuff, like changing a little bit here and there. But I don't really follow the instructions. The only thing I do like doing is baking. Because my grandmother, she used to bake. And this is more in line with the next question, because, I mean, at one point I was debating if it was the taste of the bread that was making that very special, or if it was the environment around my grandmother baking. She used to bake in two main seasons. One was the Day of the Dead in Mexico. We have a particular type of bread, and the other time is the Three Kings celebration, which is in January 6th, which was exactly her birthday.
Okay.
And those were the two times where we would gather, and she would bake, and nobody was allowed to cause mess in the house, because her belief was that if someone gets angry, the bread won't inflate. And that was like the worst thing that could ever happen.
Like a bad spirit will get infused into the bread, kind of a thing.
Exactly.
It's funny. My grandma had pretty much the same thought. She's very famous on Chinese New Year. The first night of Chinese New Year, New Year Eve, pretty much. She will make hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dumplings. And pretty much, to the best of my understanding, nobody is supposed to be in the kitchen when she does that. Every single one of them has to come out perfect to start a good year. That's kind of the philosophy, because she will be feeding the whole family pretty much for that night. We will just be gathering around the Lazy Susan and eat dumplings all night. Yeah.
Wow. Was your family really big, or?
When I was still living in Taiwan, so I have an aunt from my mother's side that lives with her family in Taiwan, and obviously my family and my grandma. So relatively speaking, it's smaller than most people think, at least in the traditional sense. But I mean, it still keep the house very loud. Yeah, definitely keep the house busy and keep the chopsticks and bowls cleaning. So.
And was your grandmother cooking just for the family, or did she own a restaurant or something?
No, she doesn't own a restaurant, but she cooks for a lot of her friends for lunch. They will gather together. She will cook. They will play mahjong, hang out, chat, maybe go out shopping together and that kind of stuff. So it's a very sociable activity, I think, to her as well. Like she always had the biggest smile on her face whenever there's a big group of people sitting down on her table eating, sharing stories, laughing, and whatever. Yeah. Sometimes she would cuss me out too. She's like, ah, dang it, KP. You know, rice is expensive. Why are you on your third bowl already? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think cooking in some for some people is like a social thing. Um, I had a friend who loves cooking,
Mm-hmm.
but it's more the fact that I mean that's always the case, you know, like food brings people together.
Oh yeah,
All the time.
100%.
And she loved like the fact that her cooking was making people feel good,
Mhm.
because they would sit around and then share stories and all this kind of social activity, which again I think got kind of interrupted because of the situation we had in 2020,
Mm-hmm.
and people stopped gathering around. But I think that social interaction is very important. I mean, it doesn't really matter like what is the excuse if
Mhm.
if we want to look at it in that way. If it's cooking, if it's like maybe playing cards,
Yeah.
if it's like anything, you know, like I
Mhm.
think that social interaction is super important.
Oh yeah.
We were watching this documentary on Netflix called I think The Blue Zones. Have you heard of it?
Nah, I don't have Netflix.
That's good because like
Yeah.
there's so much content that sometimes it's so hard to choose what you want to watch.
It's funny because my sister used to work on Netflix and I don't
Oh,
even
really?
Yeah, I don't even own it. Yep. I don't know. I'm just not too much of a sit down and watch TV show for the rest of the night.
Yeah.
And I try to keep myself busy out of the house. Yeah. So the place I'm renting right now, literally, I am probably fine with it just being a bed and a
Mm.
closet.
Yeah.
Most of the time out of the house. So
Yeah, I just started watching more like shows in the last maybe 2 years. But I was the same. Like
Mhm.
I was like basically busy all the time, either working or doing some projects or hanging out with friends. Um, I started finding some interesting shows more because I love like these topics about artificial intelligence
Mhm.
or philosophy, physics,
Mhm.
and I found like some shows to be very interesting.
Nice.
And I think that's the main reason. But in this particular documentary, they are talking about some areas around the world with the longevity rate
Mhm.
being like really high, and they start analyzing why, and they trace some patterns, and one of those factors is actually social interactions.
Oh yeah.
People who remain active not only physically but also like like socially,
Mhm.
and they add like a lot of greens in their food, and they eat healthy stuff.
Mhm.
It's crazy. Like there was a guy in, I think it was South America, like 90 years old,
Mhm.
riding a horse, like
Oh yeah.
and I'm already having problems with my knees and my hips, and like,
Well, you also heard, people like celebrating their 100th birthday by running the Boston Marathon
yeah.
or something like that. It's a very well beloved grandma with a huge family and all that jazz. So I think, yeah, they're definitely taxing a lot. Like, I'm a pretty outgoing person in general. I would like to think, at least. And COVID definitely has a very passive drain on me, day in and day out. Like I will find the excuses just to text some friends, at least get some social
Yeah.
interaction back and forth. But like in person was difficult, right? So that was yeah, different. And then I did feel very rejuvenated once in a while if I can get like a Zoom call
Mhm.
going so I can see people's faces, I can hear the actual voice rather than just a line of text. It's a very different thing. And then, man, I was bejoyed when they finally announced COVID is kind of sort of not a thing anymore, especially if you're vaccinated and all that jazz, that I could meet up in person with friends, right? I felt COVID changed me in a way. Like I am way more outgoing now
Oh,
than who I used to be, which
Yeah.
technically already was a pretty outgoing
Mhm.
lifestyle. But like right now, it's like freaking on steroids. Yeah, I just want to hang out with friends. I would, go out of my way to find events. I'll post on the community chats like, hey guys, this Lantern Festival is happening. Hey guys, there is a freaking Fire and Flame,
Yeah.
show and in downtown Cary. It's just in hope some people will be there, and I'm always very happy to see them. I mean, yeah, you and Shannon actually went to that
Yeah.
Fire and Flame festival, right? It's
Mhm.
just like I'm not really forcing anybody to go with me, but if they do, I'm usually very happy to see
Yeah.
familiar faces in the event. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you can be like a really strong community builder,
Mm.
like like bringing people together for
Mm-hmm.
doing like different activities.
I just want to do stuff. A lot of time people kind of forget how just to relax and play.
Yeah.
Yeah. In today's world, there's a lot of things going on for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of people did forget kind of how to occasionally relax and play. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, happy to kind of just at least throw information out there. It might catch somebody's glimpse. Say, hey, that actually looks interesting, and I am free. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be with me or anything. Just as long as they enjoyed it, I think that helps. Yeah, especially like to me, especially coming out of COVID, it's like I have a debt to pay almost, a social debt.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was a very weird time.
yeah.
And I think like a lot of us are still recovering from
Mhm.
from all the, I don't want to say damage because I think it's just like a process, but
Mhm.
I think it changed us in more, I mean, at least in my case, in more on a negative way. I think the negative impact was heavier than the positive impact that I observed.
Mhm.
And I think society in general is still recovering. And I think that's one of the reasons of why I started this project as well, because I've been learning a lot about topics that I was never very interested on.
Mhm.
Like my passion was more like mathematics and
Mhm.
and banking and like all this like
Numbers, a
yeah.
lot of numbers.
But then I started like getting more into the social interaction, the mind, and
Mhm.
now I'm obsessed with learning about the mind and like reality, like the what a lot of people call like the theory of everything. Like
Yeah.
what is this space? What is this thing? But I think I mean, at least in my particular case, for me to go and explore those ideas, I think I need to be at peace with myself first.
Mhm.
And I think what you're saying is very important. Like, how do people relax? And finding that time to like get rid of the stress is very important.
Yeah.
Because a lot of illnesses. Well, a lot of I've talked to a few people in the medical field who believe that a lot of the root causes for several illnesses come actually from stressful triggers.
Yeah, and it's hard to detect sometimes too. Like I pretty much had to be knocked on my head from a couple close friends to say, "Hey, by the way, you were just never there for anything. You were always working. You were always
Yeah.
pulling the extra shifts. Like you seemed really happy at work, which I was, but I never realized. I was like, yeah, I abandoned and lost a lot of things to exchange for that kind of self, so to speak, happiness.
Mhm.
And then COVID slowed everything down enough for me. I think for me to kind of realize, I was like, oh, you know what? I was more satisfied with what I have achieved from working hard, but not necessarily relaxed and happy with what I have achieved.
Yeah.
It's a very different realization. So
Mhm.
once that came to light, that anxiousness of kind of trying to repair everything builds,
Mhm.
and then COVID was kind of like a floodgate that just blocks it, right? So that's where for me it was a really frustrating time back then.
Mhm.
But when they say COVID more or less is gone, when the floodgate opened, I think that's who I am today. Like I said, I just want to hang out with almost everybody, meeting
Yeah.
new people. It's very exciting. Yeah, and then hopefully mending some of the lost friendship, over the years. I feel like they were a lot more there than I realized even today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a game changer thing. It was like an eye-opening event. One other thing that recently happened to me. The company that I used to work for, like they went bank. Well, they didn't go bankrupt. They were about to. They got acquired by a different company,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it was last week. I was talking to a person I respect a lot in the company, and he was telling me, like you've spent like 15 years of your life working here, and to be honest, like if you're like very like pragmatic about this thing, you don't owe them anything, they don't owe you anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like you sign a contract, you work, you do your best, they pay you, and that's it. Like you don't have any ties to them. But the important thing here is like you realize that after 15 years of giving like all you are, like all your knowledge, learning, sharing, what you did is worth nothing. It's worth like in his words, like it's worth shit. And I was like, that's true. I mean, it's sad, but it's true. And that made me think like that. I mean, yeah, like there is something more than just work, which is great for people who look at work as a final goal.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there is way more than just that aspect in your life. And I think learning how to balance all that stuff may be tricky, may be complex, but I think it's worth exploring it.
Oh yeah. And then work is just also a very special thing I can see in life. Like we need a monetary basis. Like everybody needs money to live, at least to sustain like a basic needs in life. But I don't know. To me, I've stayed with my work so far for almost 9 years now. At least from what I heard in the biotech industry, especially manufacturing, it's a pretty rare occurrences these days. I've definitely had multiple friends keep on encourage me, say, hey, you can interview elsewhere, you can get a lot more money than what you're being paid right now in your company. It was like, well, yes, but I really give credit to the supervisor and the manager that builds my team throughout all these years. Like we really cultivated a team of people that I absolutely fell in love working with, right? It's more like taking care of each other, like going to work knowing I'm going to do a good job so other person's life gets easier and they also enjoy what they work. When we pack it up, get into our car and drive home, we feel pretty purpose. Like, yeah, we did something awesome together. That feeling sustained me for all the way until now. I feel very lucky to work under such team, right? That to me, I think that was my addiction of putting so much of my life and energy and effort into work, just trying to make that picture perfect. But like I said, on the flip side, I just kind of ignored everything outside of the work quite a bit. Yeah, I would say quite a bit. And so now I'm truly, in the past year, I've been kind of experiencing more about this true work-life balance. I've always joked to myself, like, yeah, work-life balance is kind of perspective, right? If I'm okay, have no life and all work, but happy, that is still balanced to me.
Absolutely.
Right, which to a certain extent, like I said, I was never stressed out about my work. But now realize what that picture truly is. It was like, I need to learn to dial down. Something I feel very, purpose, something I feel it's a great achievement of mine. But I need to start maintaining also more of truly the life, the social, the people, the friends, and friendship and all that jazz.
And while that is important to find that balance, I've been talking to a really good friend of mine. I've been recording a few episodes with him in Spanish. Our story is very interesting because we met when we were, I think, 14 years old. And we were best friends for that period of time. And then, we started working, we stopped talking to each other, and now we're reconnected. And he he's almost a neurobiologist.
Oh, nice.
So he knows a lot about the brain, and he knows a lot. And we were talking about how neurobiology aligns with all these ancient techniques of meditation and wellness. And we are trying to also communicate to people that a lot of the stuff that is out there talking about energies and the law of attraction, people really need to be careful and understand what's behind, so they don't fall in false speeches or false promises. I think it's very important to connect both. I think ancient techniques have a lot of wisdom, and it's worth it, absolutely worth it, explore all that. But I think it's very important to connect that with the science behind. unfortunately or fortunately, like one of the strongest things we have nowadays to like keep evolving and keep learning is the scientific method,
Hmm.
and it can be applied in different ways. And I think it's important. That's also one of the reasons of why this is the art of listening.
Hmm.
It's important for scientists to be open to listen to like people practicing all these ancient techniques, and like likewise on the other side,
Yeah.
and find a point in common. And what we were talking is like, yeah, it's really important to find that balance in life. And I think where people get caught a lot of times is that they get frustrated with not finding that balance. While I think the key for releasing the stress and finding that happiness is actually being content what you have.
Hmm.
You need to keep exploring. Absolutely, go for it, but don't make that the end goal. Because to be honest, and that this may sound a little bit, I don't know how people may interpret this, but a lot of people won't reach that balance ever,
Hmm.
right? And if we are not going to reach that balance, what we can actually control is being at peace with what we have.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I agree. And then one philosophical saying I always really enjoy using, and it's pretty say true with how I kind of treat my life and everything I do. It's like it's important for you to know where the summit of your destination is. If say
Yeah.
you're going for a climb, a hike, it's important for you to define very clear where your destination is. But a lot of the time, if you truly go on the hike, people enjoy the journey to the summit
Mhm.
than simply the summit,
Yeah.
right? So like along the way, you stop, smell the flower. I mean, smell the flower is weird, but whatever. You look at the flower, take
Mhm.
picture, Instagram, whatever. Somebody tripped, you helping them up, and you drink water, you eat snack, laugh, all that jazz. Like the journey to the summit, a lot of the times to me is a lot more enjoyable
Mhm.
than just 5-10 minutes I might spend up in the summit taking a panoramic terribly picture terribly. So yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, finding like defining where the goal is important, but it's the effort that everybody put together working towards it. I think that's really what connects
Yeah.
people together. And within that, I agree the listening skill is important to continue that journey like in it together, unison. Yeah, instead of somebody raise a head and then somebody got left behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, I want to change a little bit the subject in line with the listening stuff. Because before we started recording, you mentioned about like along the hobby part that you feel that this new dance that you're exploring, Zouk,
Mm-hmm.
is it's more in line with like listening, right, to your partner instead of, I mean, compared to like the other type of
Mhm.
dances that you have practiced.
Yeah, it's a yeah. So Brazilian zouk is a pretty new, hobby, relatively speaking, to me. I've really only started dancing it or being introduced to it by Shannon actually last October 8th, 2022. So just a little bit over a year of the exposure to me, right? But every lesson, every instructor, every partner that I dance with, the emphasis is always making that connection, the connection to your partner, connection to music, connection to the room, to the floor. It's a very sensual and is a very kind of like meditative, I guess, also way of looking at dance.
Mhm.
I came from a background of 11 years in competitive ballroom dancing, right? So at the time, it melts very well with what I desire because I actually joined ballroom from a injury that I suffered when I was doing a little bit like martial art and fighting. I got
Mhm.
injured bad enough, I had to stop. And then after the recovery, I was no longer in shape to kind of step back into martial art to the level I wanted to. One of my friends convinced me to pivot, pun intended, into dancing, into
So,
dancing, and that stuck.
What kind of injury was that?
I split my the ball of my foot in half.
Oh,
I kicked somebody in the elbow and then pretty forcefully, and the elbow won. And the elbow won. Yeah, so it was like a 6-7 months recovery journey until I could barely run, I guess. Yeah. So through
that's
that,
crazy.
yeah, through that, I was gaining weight, obviously not working out and all that, everything. So yeah, ballroom came into my life kind of like 180. thing. But again, the principle for competitive ballroom is the same. I am doing the same thing over and over and over
Yeah.
to perfect the form, to perfect the weight transfer, to perfect the footwork, to build connection with my dedicated dance partner. It's the same person that I mold myself to, and they mold themselves to me, so we can glide on the floor and dance on the floor together. Right. So at the time, I've enjoyed ballroom a lot, but I've never done any sorts of social dancing. Never really danced salsa. Never really danced bachata, where you're constantly, switching out the music, switching out the partners. So when I first encountered Zouk, again after that explosion of eagerness to reconnect with people after COVID, it was a little bit sensory overload for me. Kind of the two and two.
Oh yeah.
What Zouk is offering and what I was really desiring at the time. So it melded together. I struggled a little bit to really get over that hump in my head where my technique need to be better so the followers will feel better if I'm dancing off time, even though there are lyrical and then percussion interpretation of the music that everybody can kind of feel. It's really not a wrong way to dance Zouk, which is a completely foreign concept to me, right? Everything has a perfect form you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Not quite in Zouk. Yeah, so through that, again, learning to relax in the dance was actually the first thing. One of the instructor that helped me along, Anna, she was a traveling instructor that stayed in the North Carolina scene for a while. She was like, "Hey, I need to de-ballroomify you." Like that's a joke, but it's kind of true, right? Like I've always hope you gotta keep the frame up and everything. This had to be this angle, I had to keep the head, whatever kind of a thing. It's like that's the right form. And versus Zouk, relax. This song is slow. Let me just like hug you and then kind of be a little gooey. Oh, this song is really upbeat. Let me pick you up and then kind of add some energy and bounce to it to play. Right, to play, it's a lot more free, and in that sense, I feel it's now very much more important to have a conversation non-verbally with the dance partner, because we might be dancing 3 to 5 songs together, and then I have to learn a new conversation with another body after we walk on the floor. Whereas I think the philosophical approach for ballroom, competitive ballroom at the time, was, hey, you're my partner. We're going to talk a little bit amongst each other. And when we step on the floor, we are making an announcement to the audience. We are putting on a show, right? We're there to entertain the whole audience and whatever. So the projection of the voice, so to speak, through dance was very different, I felt. Yeah, in ballroom, I am speaking to the audience to say, hey, look, this is what I've been working on. This is what I'm performing with my partner. Together, enjoy the show. Versus Zouk is more like this. You and I just sitting down, relax, having a good conversation. In my last 3 songs, in my last 5 songs, or some cray Zoukers saying they dance with same partner for 3 hours straight, which crazy, right? But I kind of experienced that. I have a actually hour 30-minute dance with the same partner once. This year, they kind of just randomly came up. So I felt that, right? That was when I woke off the floor. I was like, bloody hell, that was an hour 30 minutes. I did not feel that. It was very comfortable. Just time flew by. Yeah, time passes. So Zouk is interesting. I am very glad I picked it up. And right now it's probably rocket ship, my definitely passion project. I'm devoting a lot of time and effort into learning better.
It's not a very recognized type of dance, right? It's not like very I mean, it's not that mainstream. I think that's what I mean, because
yeah, correct. The Zouk thing is so, relatively speaking, on the smaller side. In terms of popularities and awareness. Like a lot of time when you say, hey, have you ever danced salsa? People will say no, but at least they're aware what salsa looks like, sounds like, feels like, whatever. But when you say Zouk, have you danced Zouk before? Most of the time you get, what is Zouk? Never heard it, right? So hopefully we'll get there. I think Zouk has really good potential, to be something people love for. And I can see that for people who dance Zouk, a lot of them truly have a passion towards it. In a way, I think that's pretty healthy for the community.
Yeah. I've seen people, I would say, as everything, like it's a very special and particular type of dance. And I can see that different approach in like how the Zouk is more like an intimate conversation compared to a dance where you have to master the technique
Mm-hmm.
and like make it more like a choreography type of dance.
Right.
And I was just thinking when you were telling me that one time someone asked me, we were debating the definition of perfection,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, I don't think perfection is making the thing or making something that doesn't have any errors or failures. I think perfection is more like a human type of concept,
Mm-hmm.
and I think gets confused with accuracy. I think some type of dances like what you were mentioning in ballroom, it's more about accuracy, like being
Mhm.
very, very, very accurate. And my point was that okay, when you look at a painting, right? Do you think it's perfect? Like if you think about the greatest painters,
Mm-hmm.
if you go to Italy and you watch a statue, or you go to a church and you see all the architecture, is that perfect? And the answer of this person was yes. And I was like, but that is not 100% accurate. It's not like there are like little mistakes, but I think that is exactly what makes it perfect. And what makes us perfect as humans is that we are not 100% accurate, and
Oh,
we are not going to do the same over and over. And I think that's one of the big, and I don't mean this with disrespect, like
Mhm.
like there are different focuses, but I think in that sense, I think Zouk wants to explore more of that human nature,
Mm-hmm.
which comes with like, yeah, we all make errors, but that's fine. That's perfectly
And you
natural.
cherish it. Yeah.
Mhm.
And you kind of cherish it. You learn to laugh it off. You learn to enjoy
Yeah.
the little mistake here and there. And I think that's what makes, somebody unique.
Mhm.
Yeah, somebody good. And then obviously, like I never danced into such a high level of ballroom. Like I did not achieve, such a level. So I never really even close reach perfection in any aspect of ballroom to my, on the best of understanding. But, I kind of wonder in the top level, you still have dancers that continue to improve, right? So
Yeah.
I think perfection is such a relative
Yeah.
concept. Like
Mhm.
the drive to chase perfection is beautiful.
Mhm.
Achieving perfection, I think, will be very boring very soon.
Yeah.
Because definition of perfection for me is there's nothing to improve.
Mhm.
There's nothing more to improve. So I don't know. Like that spark at you with, oh, I did this better than yesterday.
Yeah.
That felt better than last week. That those are the things I really, really love finding, like even dancing Zouk. Like, oh shoot, I actually relaxed through the whole song rather than, bring my ballroom frame up and then lift the follower up a little bit until they like tap on my shoulders like, hey, can you like relax a little bit? Like, oops, my bad. Yeah, it just came out. I mean, it's 11 years of experiences versus just 1 year. So
Yeah.
yeah, which is fun. I mean, but sometimes it's fun. It's like, oh yeah, your frame is really stiff. I love it. Like, okay, did not expecting that. Yeah.
Yeah, this concept of what you're describing of perfection, kind of it's in line with what we were talking about, like the summit and the journey.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do once you reach the goal?
You find the next goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, you find the next goal. There should be always the next goal you're looking after,
Yeah.
right?
But if you find the next goal was a prior goal, the real goal, I don't know,
No, I think
or different goals.
I think the goal you achieved prior become part of the journey.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right?
Exactly.
So that should be a never ending thing. Like I know one of my coworkers, she and her husband just did, I think 50 or whatever the actual number is, all national park in the US
Oh.
before they turn 30.
Mhm.
Now their goal is to travel, I think, I don't know, 40 or 50. I think it's 40 different countries before they turn 40. So
Oh wow.
yeah, so they're like setting up goal for
Mhm.
a lot of things. Every country they go to, every peak they climb, and that was
Yeah.
a goal become a part of the journey. And I guarantee, I don't want to speak for them, but I guarantee when they're talking about all these experiences together, they will be talking about the little things that happen on the way,
Yeah.
perhaps way more than the scenery they're seeing on the top of the mountain or something like that, right?
It would be interesting to have their perspective. Like, if the goal, if they enjoy the moment of, let me rephrase it. Let's say that, like, they are older, right? And then they think back. So, what was the most beautiful moment? Like actually traveling, or like marking the last trip to complete the 30 or 40 countries?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure like they're gonna be like, like we got more from the actual execution of the traveling
Oh yeah.
and being there than just like marking.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like having the goal is important, and I think that helps people develop something that I believe is critical for improvement, which is discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And I think discipline has a negative context most of the times, but I don't think discipline is bad. I mean, it depends on how you focus your energy.
It takes some, I would say it is definitely a concept that takes some practices and activation energy
Yeah.
to get into, right? Like that discipline was the reason why I really fell in love with martial art. It is the full
Mhm.
discipline on how to condition yourself for yourself, right? How, throw a punch, not perfect, keep throwing it,
Yeah.
but change one fiber of your muscle every time that you improve. Eventually, you will achieve that near perfect
Mhm.
punch, and then punch some more until you you really get to use it.
Yeah.
Now to punch it different ways and da da da. So then you really learn to be in tune with your body. That find that journey of like doing the same thing over and over and over, but improve ever so slightly each repetition. And eventually, you look behind you for everything that you have built.
Yeah.
Your first punch versus your 10,000th punch should look and feel completely different. And now
Yeah.
that's something yours, forever in your body.
If I was to explore martial arts, what would be like something to go for? I've heard jiu-jitsu is
I don't know, man. I actually don't know. I kind of what you want from martial art. There are gyms these days very much push people into, in the ring with the gloves and helmets and all that jazz, so they fight.
yeah.
Because you can get medals, you can get awards. There are gyms very much pushing people to do belt tests, so they can give you a new belt for, I don't know, $40 whatever to get money. So I think the finding a good coach, a good gym that truly are just there to help people. Whatever goal they set, right? Its gym is a facility to give you the camping gear, to give you the hiking boot, the things that you need. Maybe give you, lend you a shepherd on the way so you don't get lost on your journey. But they should be there to help you achieve the goal rather than set the goal for you and push you.
Yeah.
And then just straight up push you up their way. So I think for martial art, from my personal experience, finding a good gym will be probably more important than finding a form
Okay.
that you enjoy. That would be kind of my advice. Yeah, it can be boxing and from boxing, maybe some other people is practicing Brazilian jiu-jitsu to the side. You'll be exposed just little by little by the nature of a lot of form art shares the gym together. So that's something you can explore after you have a good community that's there to support you whatever you do. That's my thinking, at least from my experience. Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't realize the importance of physical activity, and I think martial arts in particular connect your brain and body in a similar way, like like practicing yoga and all these kind of things. And like a lot of like philosophy actually developed in the gyms. People like doing physical activities and actually connecting, like being really mindful of the movements, and like starting from there, like they notice like a connection between the body and the mind, and then like different philosophies start being developed after that connection.
Yeah.
And it's critical, I think, for nowadays to keep that balance that we were talking about. I think like having a physical someone told me once, there are like some important pillars in your life. You need like a physical activity, something that keeps your body active. an intellectual activity, something that keeps your brain active in
Mhm.
an abstract way, in a critical thinking, and also some sort of artistic activity, something that gets you in touch with yourself.
Mhm.
And having those three working well, like it's gonna help you a lot in trying to define goals and achieve like anything you want, like happiness or whatever
Yeah.
you need.
I agree. I think those three things together builds what we call a you, right? You, Gabriel, because you have those three things, however developed or underdeveloped you feel like they are. But when we hang out together, you express those three things. As I get to know it, that's you, right? That's what makes you unique. That was what make myself unique to each other and to different people, because like everybody has different standards and everything. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Those three are good pillars for sure to have in your life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think that's the takeaway for today, because I know you have a class.
Yeah,
a
man.
Zouk class
Zouk
in the next
dancing, man.
minutes.
Everything gotta be surrounded by Zouk.
So we talk about like different topics, and I really love like like we didn't have a script, we didn't have
Hmm.
like a lot of idea where it will take us, but I think it went exactly where it had to go.
Yeah.
And I really feel that we kept in like talking about like the conversation was consistent and going back
Mhm.
um, to the same channel. Do you have any final remarks to add after this conversation? How did you feel?
No, I mean, I feel like this is just a same old afternoon over a cup of tea conversation I could have with anybody, right? This is a very surprisingly relaxing scenario. Like walking in here, I saw the gear set up, saw the camera set up. There were thoughts about
Yeah.
this can be something I'm not super used to. But yeah, no, I think just keep your mind open for sure when people are talking. A lot of times, I know in my brain, I used to immediately think about the response, right? You say something, I'm already kind of like backlogging the response I should be saying per se, but kind of learn to let that go and just be in the moment and then really listen to the whole thing. Take your time, think about it, relax. And then I feel like you can return more of a genuine answer that carry the conversation deeper and further with the person. I think that kind of conversations has a lot more meaning or more effective, I guess, building this community relationship with the other person, even a stranger, right?
Yeah.
To kind of open that, it makes a deeper impact to each other's time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's something that can be applied in any aspect in life.
Mhm.
Work, friendships, relationships.
Yeah.
I think anything, family.
Yeah. A lot of the leadership classes I take at work always talk about build your authentic self. I think that was probably the root of an authentic self, like being able to just talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, being able to just talk
And listen.
and listen. Yep. Cool, man. That was good.
Thank you so much, KP.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
See
you.
you next time. Bye.
Cheers.
The Art of Listening Podcast.